Today I wanted to review the Viridian RFX1 custom green dot for the Bodyguard 2.0. Here's the box it came in. Inside there's a cleaning cloth, sticker, coupon for a Viridian light, directions to join their VIP club, mounting hardware, a single battery, and of course a manual. Some people will automatically discount this as a good option due to it being dovetail mounted. In my experience, dovetail red dot mounts can be perfectly serviceable, but this isn't like one of those plates that you hammer in or use a sight pusher on, so I was interested to know how it would hold up. The serrations on the optic line up with those found on the Bodyguard slide and should be pretty close in color to the base model. But the optic body isn't entirely flush with the slide. There is a little room between the sides that hang down and the slide. This is somewhat relevant because the battery is placed in the underside of the optic, not in a sealed compartment. While I don't really like when optics have their batteries there, I can't really blame them for this choice. Making an optic this small and form-fitting to the Bodyguard certainly comes with constraints that led them to do this. In terms of waterproofing, the optic is only IPX4 rated, so if that's to be believed, this is definitely not an optic you can go swimming with. On to actually using the dot. It's 3 MOA, so still fairly small, even with astigmatism. The glass clarity was good. Distortion near the edges was very minimal. The brightness is auto-adjusting and has a fairly wide range. It might not get as incredibly bright as some dots, but I rarely find myself in environments that are bright enough to need that. The entire window was usable, so while it's dwarfed by some small RMSC and Holosun K footprint optics like this Holosun Blackout 407K, you are getting full use of the window. Finding the dot with a window this small can be challenging when using this at awkward angles, but that just means you should really practice your presentations when training with this. The dot is far back enough on the slide where it didn't get any carbon buildup on the lens, even though the filthy armscor ammo I used coated my thumb that was next to the slide release. The direct milled dots sit a little bit further forward on the side, but not enough where I think that's going to be an issue there either. The dot turns on automatically and turns off after 2 minutes of no movement, and it's pretty sensitive, so it should be on whenever it's on your body. To me, this is still a pocket gun, and that's how I've carried it for the last week as a backup. But even with this tiny optic, it does add some size that might push it out of the pocket carry realm for some people, although certainly less than other optics. Let's talk about pricing and why you might pick this over alternatives. Here in the US, I know of at least 2 shops that will mill Bodyguard slides for optics, both starting at $185 before shipping. That, in addition to roughly $150 for a decent optic on sale, will put you at $335 before taxes and shipping. This Viridian offering doesn't require you to ship your slide out and provides the optic at around $230 currently. So that does enable someone to get an optic on their Bodyguard for a lower price, but you still will need a torque wrench with either method, and either punches in a mallet or a good sight pusher preferably for this sight. For a new gun owner that doesn't have these tools, having a local gunsmith remove the sights and install this for you might be a good idea, but will likely be an additional cost to consider. Now, one of the best upsides to having a dot on your gun is that it makes racking the slide easier, and for people with very little hand strength, it can make racking the slide possible when otherwise it isn't. That's a really important thing to be able to do when you're not at home with a slide racking device. Now, the serrations on the optic matching the slide makes it so your fingers have a lot more surface area to grip, which might make it easier, but that still could be too difficult to some. During my limited testing, I zeroed the gun and ran 100 rounds through it, carried it for a week, and after that, put another 400 through. Instead of leaving the slide locked back and using the slide release, I used an overhand grip, which only puts some of the pressure on the optic, but still makes racking the gun very easy. Thankfully, there wasn't any shift in zero after that. If you do plan on racking it with the optic, I would apply some blue Loctite in places that the factory dry thread locker isn't. If you are someone with very little hand strength, or are giving a Bodyguard to someone with very little hand strength who needs the optic to rack the slide, I would definitely go with the shops, either the one that mills directly or the one that mills and uses a plate, and an optic of your choice. Those, when mounted properly, give me no pause with racking the slide and are definitely a more robust solution. So overall, what do I think of this optic? I really like it. It's not the most solid feeling mounting system, but it feels good enough and barely adds any size to the gun. Paired with the excellent Bodyguard 2.0 trigger, I was getting fist-sized groups at 15 yards just after zeroing it, and I'm quite happy with that after only owning this 10 days. Going with an optics cut may still be the better option, but this is far from a bad option.